Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my channel? Thank you so much. The night, much like others before it, had been chaotic and loud, but this one felt different. Some moments in life carve themselves into your memory so deeply, no matter how much you try to erase them. This was one of those moments, the night where everything blurred, boundaries dissolved, and nothing would ever be the same again. When I arrived home, the first rays of dawn were peeking through the curtains. I could barely stand, my mind was clouded, my body exhausted, but my thoughts were an unbearable whirlwind. I was still wearing the tight black mini dress I'd chosen for the party, sleeveless, with a plunging back. It hugged every curve, commanding attention wherever I went that night. But as I caught my reflection in the mirror, all I could see was the emptiness in my eyes. My makeup had smeared, and my hair was a mess, but none of that mattered. The loneliness inside me overshadowed everything else. My mom, as always, was sound asleep in her room. My mom, Elle, at 45, was a woman who had endured so much. My dad left when I was 5, abandoning us as if we were nothing. Despite the pain, she held her head high and built a life for us. Yet, I knew the cracks it left in her, the scars she hid so well. And then there was Connor, her second husband. Connor changed everything about our home when he entered it 3 years ago. At 51, Connor was a man who exuded confidence and control. He looked far younger than his age, with his athletic build, perfectly styled dark hair speckled with gray, and that air of quiet strength. He was charming in a way that made everyone around him notice. But what struck me most was how much he cared for my mom, for me, for this family. And truthfully, I wasn't sure how to deal with the feelings I'd started to develop for him. When I walked into the house, the living room light was on. There he was, sitting on the couch, a book in his hands, the collar of his shirt undone. His eyes, dark and intense, immediately found mine as I stumbled through the doorway. There was something unspoken in his gaze, concern, disappointment, but perhaps something else, something I didn't dare to name. "Do you even know what time it is, Alessandra?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying the weight of unspoken frustration. This again. I couldn't answer. My heels clicked unsteadily against the hardwood floor as I tried to hold my balance. His eyes stayed on me, assessing every detail, my smeared makeup, the disheveled state of my dress, and the way I couldn't even meet his gaze. "Connor, please," I managed to whisper, though I wasn't sure what I was even asking for. Before I could finish, he rose from the couch and took a few deliberate steps toward me. He was so close I could smell him, an earthy, woodsy scent that felt safe, grounding. My heart raced in a way I couldn't control. "You can't keep doing this," he said, his tone soft but undeniably firm. "Have you even thought about how your mom would feel if she saw you like this?" His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Vision blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. "You don't understand," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I feel empty, and I don't know how to fill that emptiness." For a moment, he froze. Something flickered in his eyes, a tenderness that made my chest ache. "Alandra," he said, his voice softer now, almost breaking. "I can't just stand by and watch you destroy yourself." My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the couch behind me. The tightness of my dress only made me feel more vulnerable. He crouched down beside me, his eyes level with mine, and the air between us grew heavier, thicker. "You're beautiful, Alessandra," he said, his voice carrying both admiration and frustration. "You're special. How could they not see that? But you can't do this to yourself." His words stirred something deep within me. The way he looked at me, the way his voice carried a mix of care and restrained emotion, it was unlike anything I'd ever felt. My breath hitched as I met his gaze, and I knew in that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. Before this story gets even crazier, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. Your support through comments and likes at the end of the story means so much to me. The moment he picked me up in his arms, I felt every wall I'd ever built around myself come crashing down. Even through my tight dress, I could feel my body swaying slightly in his strong arms as he carried me to my room. The warmth radiating from him surrounded me, pulling me into a strange sense of peace. It was a feeling no one had ever given me before. Growing up, being hurt by men over and over, Connor's strength, his presence felt like magic. And yet, I had no idea how much he would change my life or what I'd end up doing for him that would take everything even further. He gently laid me down on my bed. The hem of my dress had ridden up above my knees, but his eyes, always careful, always controlled, didn't linger. Instead, there was something else in his gaze, something I couldn't quite place. It was tension, yes, but not just that. It was protective, yet maybe, just maybe, there was something more. My heart raced when I noticed it. He was my mom's husband, but he was also the only man who had ever truly understood me, cared about me. As the space between us shrank, I felt like everything was about to change in an instant. You need to rest, Alessandra, he said, his voice deep but soft. He pulled the blanket over me, his eyes meeting mine for just a moment. You can't keep hurting yourself like this. You deserve better. I couldn't respond, my eyes closed, but my mind and heart were completely fixated on him. I kept replaying how he'd held me, how his voice wrapped around me like a safety net. Was it just trust, or was it something else entirely? I didn't know, but I did know one thing. My feelings for Connor shifted that night, and everything was about to get more complicated. Spending more time with Connor had become a new habit. For me, my mom Elisa seemed lost in her own world. She had changed so much. She used to be so full of life, but the weight of the years and the marks of loneliness had turned her into someone else. Connor, though, was still vibrant, charismatic, and brimming with a fire he tried to suppress that made him even more fascinating. Our conversations grew longer and deeper with each passing day. We'd spend hours at the kitchen table drinking coffee, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes we'd put on a movie in the living room and discuss it afterward. These small moments, which might have seemed insignificant, were the ones that strengthened the connection between us. Every word Connor said pulled me in more. Every little movement, every glance left me searching for meaning. As a woman, I could sense his feelings for me too, in his silences, in the subtle but intentional looks he gave me. There was something there, something that thrilled me. I thought everything was finally falling into place. My interest in partying was fading. I was drinking less, and I was coming home sober. The time I spent with Connor opened up a new world for me. Our talks gave my life meaning again. But that night, that one night where I messed it all up, that was the night everything unraveled. As I drifted from one party to another, there was an emptiness inside me. My feelings for Connor had become unbearable. I couldn't tell him, how could I? He was my mother's husband, but at the same time, he was the only real solid connection I had in my life. This mess tore me apart so much that I drank more than I ever had that night. By the end of it, when my friends realized they couldn't handle me anymore, they called Connor, and that changed everything. When Connor brought me home, all I felt was shame. My eyes were half closed, my dress was wrinkled, and my makeup had run down my face. I didn't even notice that my mom wasn't home. Connor grabbed me by the arm and guided me into the living room, but this time his touch felt different. It was firm, but there was an underlying sense of deep concern. Alessandra, what is this? He said, his voice rising with anger. Why? I thought we were past this. I thought you were happier now, that you were feeling better. I've been trying to help you, but this again. The disappointment in his voice shook me. I looked at him as I struggled to stay on my feet, but the words caught in my throat. The look in his eyes froze me in place. He was angry, yes, but there was something more. He took a deep breath, ran a hand through his hair, and covered his face for a moment. Why, Alessandra? Why are you doing this to yourself? He asked, his voice softer this time, but the disappointment was still painfully obvious. For a moment, I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Then, fueled by the courage the alcohol had given me, I let all my barriers fall. Because I'm in love with you, Connor, I said. My words echoed through the room like a sledgehammer. Connor's face. He froze for a moment, his eyes widened in shock, but I didn't stop. I took a step toward him and placed my hands on his chest. I'm in love with you, I repeated, this time quieter but with more determination. Then suddenly, without thinking, I pressed my lips to his. My kiss carried all my chaos, my feelings, and everything I had bottled up inside me. I had no idea if he would accept this moment or push me away, but I let myself go entirely the second my lips touched his warmth. It felt like the entire world had stopped, but at the same time, I knew this was the moment everything would change. Nothing would ever be the same again. Connor froze for a moment. He seemed unsure of what to do in the face of my kiss. Slowly, he placed his hands on my shoulders and gently pushed me back, but there was no harshness in his movements, just hesitation. When his eyes met mine, that familiar protective look was still there, but underneath it, something else lingered. Alessandra, you're too drunk, he said, his voice soft but rough. You think you feel this way because you're not in control right now. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you might regret this. Hearing those words lit a spark of anger inside me. Despite the haze of the alcohol, my thoughts became crystal clear. No, Connor, I said, my voice steady. This isn't the alcohol talking. These feelings didn't just show up tonight. I've felt this way for a long time, and I'm tired of trying to suppress it. The expression on Connor's face shifted. He was caught between shock and indecision. He tried to look away, but I didn't let my gaze leave him. I'm not just some fleeting mistake to you, I continued. You've always been there for me. You've tried to understand me. Even my mother never did that, but you've always seen me. Connor took a deep breath but said nothing. My eyes filled with tears, but I didn't back down. Connor, please listen to me. I see how lonely you are with my mom. I see how her spirit has faded, and you're too good of a man to say it to her, but you can't hide it from me. I know you're lonely because I'm lonely too, and we found each other. Why are you fighting this? My words echoed through the room. Connor's expression softened. The indecision on his face seemed to give way to deep sadness. His arms fell to his sides, but his eyes stayed on me. I stepped closer, placing my hands on his. You feel it too, don't you? I whispered. Don't deny it, because you do feel it just like I do. Connor's shoulders slumped. In that moment, it felt like something inside him had broken. His eyes locked onto mine again, and that familiar pull was back. He took a deep breath, and finally, as though all the resistance inside him had shattered, he leaned in toward me. His lips found mine again, this time with more determination, more intensity. The space between us completely disappeared. His kiss unleashed every emotion he'd been holding back. His hand slid around my waist, pulling me close. In that moment, the world stopped. All our loneliness, our frustrations, our doubts, they all melted away as I found myself wrapped in his arms. Connor's voice reached my ear in a soft whisper. Maybe you're right, Alessandra. Maybe we can't run from this anymore. Those words changed everything, and that night I knew nothing would ever be the same again. As Connor's hands held tightly around my waist, our kisses deepened. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. I had completely surrendered to him. I was completely vulnerable in his arms. My hands trembled as they wandered over his neck. My fingers brushed against the buttons of his shirt, and almost instinctively, without thinking, I started undoing them. Connor, I whispered, my voice breathless, but I didn't even know what I wanted to say. I just wanted to stay in that moment. In that instant, it felt like all my past, all my fears had been erased. I slowly slid the straps of my mini dress off my shoulders as the fabric glided down my skin. Connor's eyes stayed fixed on me. The determination and pull in his gaze made everything feel even more intense. You're so beautiful, Alessandra, he whispered, his voice full of a deep, raw passion. Hearing those words took my breath away. I let myself sink slowly onto the couch, Connor's strong hands supporting my waist. His broad frame completely consumed me. Beyond just feeling safe, I felt special, wanted in a way I hadn't experienced before. As Connor leaned down toward me, I couldn't take my eyes off him for even a second. His chest, firm and muscular, perfectly matched his powerful frame, and the strength that surrounded me both terrified and mesmerized me. When he tossed his shirt aside, he paused for a moment and looked at me. Are you sure, Alessandra? He asked, his voice soft but carrying so much depth. My eyes locked onto his, and a small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. I've never been more sure, I said, my voice coming out like a whisper. Before I could even finish my sentence, I felt Connor leaning over me. One of his knees was braced on the edge of the couch, the other planted firmly on the floor. Feeling his weight, his presence was more overwhelming than anything else. As he leaned closer, the warmth of his skin brushing against mine sent a shiver down my spine. I started to feel something huge inside me. As Connor moved slowly, he looked at me with eyes full of love. Everything was so beautiful. I didn't feel alone for the first time. I whispered to Connor, for the first time, I don't feel alone. Completely out of breath, I asked, would you believe me if I said I don't either? Connor said softly, also out of breath. After that, we both let go of everything. I felt a warmth growing inside me. My hands slowly wandered over his back as Connor's strong arms held me tightly. It felt like we were the only two people in the world. In that moment, nothing else mattered. It was just him, just me, and the intensity of that moment washed away all reality. Connor lay back, on the couch, holding me close with my head resting against his chest. I could hear the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. All the chaos and noise seemed to vanish in an instant, leaving only the peace of this moment. I gently ran my fingers over his strong arm, feeling like I'd found a safe place within him. Connor, I whispered, the words barely making it out of my mouth. What happens now? Where are we going? Alessandra, I don't want you to think about what happens today, tomorrow, or the day after, he said, his voice filled with deep compassion. Don't let that feeling of loneliness you've been carrying for so long weigh you down anymore. Tonight, I want you to set it aside. Right now, feel that you're not alone and let that peace carry you to sleep. His words broke through every defense I had left. A few tears slipped down my cheeks, but I couldn't stop myself from smiling. I had never felt so safe. For the first time, I truly felt seen, understood, and cared for. Thank you, I said, closing my eyes. Thank you for making me feel so special. I felt Connor's lips press softly against my hair. You've always been special, Alessandra, he said, his voice reaching my ear like a gentle whisper. In that moment, nothing else in the world mattered. I closed my eyes and let myself get lost in his warmth. A peace I hadn't felt in so long wrapped around me as I drifted into a sweet sleep, Connor's steady breath echoing softly in my ear. That night, for the first time, I slept knowing I wasn't alone and that someone cared for me more than anything. That feeling was more precious than anything else. But the next morning, with its unknowns and uncertainties, was still waiting for us. I knew this story wasn't over, it couldn't be. But for that moment, we left all the questions about the future in silence. Make sure to follow along because this story doesn't end here. Just stay tuned. Don't forget to hit the follow button, turn on notifications, and leave a comment about this story.